This is the Venturing Angler Podcast. I'm Tim Harden. In this episode, brought to you by Sightline Provisions, we'll be talking with Lael Paul Johnson of Fly Guide. Lael is a dedicated steelhead angler who guides the Olympic Peninsula and fishes for steelhead throughout the West. Let's chat with Lael. All right, we're here with Lael Paul Johnson of Fly Guide. Lael, welcome to the Venturing Angler Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
So you are a dedicated steelhead angler. Tell us about, what drives you, what your passions are in the world of fishing, and how you got there.
Long story short is, I'm a Midwest kid that, believed in the ocean, rivers, and the forest is like that's the real outdoors. So like growing up in the Midwest, man, we got big hills. We don't have mountains. You always dream about going to the mountains and just kind of living that outdoor life, even if it's just for a couple of days, like visiting. And it was just kind of something that kind of stuck with me, growing up, and made me just want to give it a shot if I ever got a shot. So I got a shot when I moved to Seattle in the early 2000s, and I was like, nobody's going to bring me out to this wild location but me. Nobody's going to show me what to do but me. And I just kind of took that leap and got into it. And then I met the old Mr. Steelhead, and then that changed my whole life. Just everything about that fish, and I know people fish for a lot of other fish, and I know it may be special to you, but just the life cycle of a steelhead and the things that it has to go through to get where it's going. And no disrespect to the salmon, but like the steelhead's the baddest fish swimming, right? And when I get a chance to, go to my top level to meet that top level fish that's coming into that river, and then try to fight him, boots in the ground, standing in that flowing river, with a fly rod and a reel, that just gets my heart pumping. I don't give a damn how cold it is out there. Like, I'm hot and I want it. I want the hunt. I like every part about it. And for me, it connected a lot of other dots in life for me, because like steelheading's hard. It's definitely not an easy sport. Everybody wishes there were more fish around than there is currently, right? And we're trying to still navigate that landscape at the moment. But if you're going out fishing for steelhead and you are going to give it pretty much your all, and you're going to empty the tank, you're going to have success, right? Once you figure out what's going on. And there's so many other things in life that connect the same way. Like if you give it your all, then you're going to do great things. So that's why steelhead works for me, and it just it flipped on my switch, and it ain't going off anytime soon.
One of the things that you mentioned is that all things, all aspects of it, and for me, I think I've got a bad attitude when I was living in California, and I'd go steelheading. I was thinking like, okay, I like big trees,
Mm-hmm.
I like mountains, I like fog, I like the idea of Bigfoot, I like the idea of catching a steelhead, and those are the reasons I'll go steelheading.
Yeah.
Rarely was I thinking about fish because I never thought I was going to catch them.
That's a good thing, and I say this to a lot of people is like, steelhead will get you out there, but the forest will bring you back. Right? It's not the fish. It's like, just think about, like, if you had to fish for steelhead in like in the middle of a city. I don't care how great the fish is. Like everything that I just mentioned about a steelhead, if you had to fish for that angry trout in a location that's just not as great at it as it is, you wouldn't keep coming back. You wouldn't be grinding, or working whatever you're doing just to get a shot at catching one. It's the forest. The forest is what makes that fish badass, right? Like the fish alone is amazing. We already know that, but like you're not coming back just to hook a steelhead. You're coming back because you want to be back in the forest. The trees are what bring you back, not the fish.
That's interesting. Yeah. We were talking about this right before hitting record. I've got a friend who had fished for steelhead with. He thought he was going to be catching fish. I didn't think I was going to be catching fish, but for you, part of the methodology and technique, it comes down to the fact that it might not be the fish of 1,000 casts in the back of your mind.
No, no, it doesn't work that way. No, not for me. It isn't. It, like, okay, well, I mean, I got a story right now. So the biggest steelhead I've ever seen, probably the biggest steelhead I may ever seen, I caught on my first cast. Like, I'm not kidding. I'm dead. It's so there's it's out on a magazine cover right now. The Steelheaders Journal. It's floating around, and it's bigger than my leg. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest guy in the world, but like, I'm not small, and this fish is huge. And I'm not kidding. I caught it on my first cast. Right
Wow.
now, if I was teaching two guys, right now, if I put that fly out there that day, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm kind of getting started, it doesn't work that way. Like, you literally see like your dreams like just swim away from you. Like, this is my whole life's dedicated to these fish, right? I don't know what path I was on before, but it wasn't on the path of steelhead, and I like where I'm going now, right? And I seriously believe every single cast that I'm putting out there, if it was presented right in my mind, I'm gonna catch one, right? Like, I might put a cast out there, and I give people like the idea is like, you want to get to the level where like you feel like every single cast you're putting in the water is going to catch one, and you better believe it, because the minute you don't believe it, that's the moment he's going to grab, and that's the minute he's going to own you. You have to believe it in your head that that's going to happen, right? And you got to be ready for it, right? So when I put that cast into the water, I don't care if it was the first day, for it just the first cast of the day, that's just what I was like, I'm going to catch one. I didn't know how big he was going to be, honestly. Thank goodness I didn't know how big it was, because I'd have freaked out. But I thought I was going to catch a fish. I'm like, this is my first of, I don't know, 350 casts, 400 casts of the day, but this is it. Like, that's it. And I'll tell you this, is like, I had enough situations where I wasn't in the mindset that I'm in right now. First cast of the day, third cast of the day, rip, 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 and then that's my day. That was it. And if I just would have been in a different mindset, that I was going to catch one as soon as I stepped in the water, I would have had a lot more fish to my credit, and then I just had to, honestly, I had to stop that nonsense. If you don't think you're going to catch one every cast, stay at home. Stay at home. It's just, you have to get into that mental space where like you want it bad enough. And a lot of the stuff that keeps people off of it is just like, you just don't believe it's going to happen. Like, it's a ghost to you. Like, that fish is one of my best friends. I see him all the time, like,
Yeah,
there's a difference,
and it's. I mentioned this to you too. My steelheading buddy in California, when he's fishing, he's talking out loud, and I hear him saying things like, "All right, this is it," you know, you know, under this rock, behind this rock or whatever. Here it's going to come, it's going to grab. Here it is. Here it is. The whole time he thinks it's about to happen. And I think part of my failure was on my end. I'm thinking like, I wonder if they're here, right?
And that's the thing is like, if I was sitting there worried about that, and actually, the best way I can say is like, if you want to get past that mindset, I take people on steelhead training, right? And steelhead training for me is salmon fishing, right? Salmon are in the water. They're in numbers. They jump out of the water, so you don't have to worry about, are they around? Like, dude, if you're fishing for salmon and there's no fish like splashing and moving around, there might be a few, but there's not many, right? So like, if you're floating down the river and you don't see any action or whatever, I mean, like in the fall or in the spring or whatever, it ain't gonna happen. Well, then you go to good old world of steelheading. They just don't do that. They don't do that. Like, it's not like never. I mean, I see them roll because I know where they're going to be at when they do that. But if you want to believe that you're fishing in the right place, like, go through steelhead training, which is salmon. Go ahead and fish for those fish, right? Have the confidence that you're swinging the right water, through some fish, get some grabs, and then you better wipe out all memories of there's fish jumping out of the water and you're swinging the right place when you're fishing for steelhead. You better believe that you're doing the right thing. And if you're second guessing yourself, they're going to surprise you.
Right. Where in the Midwest are you originally from?
From Topeka, Kansas, the capital capital Kansas.
So what, it wasn't the fishing that drove you west, but you were drawn by,
No, so I still have a license, but I don't do it anymore. I was a surgical technologist. I got trained in the Army, and I've I've seen some things with my eyes, being in the Army, working in surgery, and
mm,
that that led me to do that job in the civilian world also. And I got a travel contract at Seattle Children's Hospital, and that brought me out west. And like in the Midwest, fishing for like crappie, catfish, and bass and stuff like that. And that's just you fish for what's available, right? I was pretty good angler, doing it. That definitely not as dedicated as I am now. Bass don't give me the thrill. No disrespect to anybody that does, but that's just not for me. And I came out to Seattle, and a pink salmon broke my favorite bass rod.
huh?
And I was just like, "Real? This is what? This is crazy." I'm like, I had this rod for years, and this fish just smoked it. It wasn't even close, and it wasn't like a little wimpy rod, you know. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy!" And then I had another buddy who was actually able to fish with a couple of days ago, who just, he literally said it. I will never forget. He's like, "You want to go? You want to go catch some real fish?" I didn't even know the guy. I didn't even know him. He just saw that I was, out there fishing for him, and I was having a good time, and I looked like I was a decent angler. And he asked me, "Hey man, you want to go out and fish real fish?" And he meant like coho and kings. So I went out with him and fished, and had a great time. And I was like, dude, just the challenge of like fighting a Chinook is like, oh gosh, like I love steelhead and really love Chinook also, man. It's a great challenge, but I like catching steelhead the size of Chinook more. So that just kind of led me on my path to just keep chasing and chasing and chasing this steelhead. Once I met him, and I met him, for the first time, like a real steelhead in the Olympic National Park. And the Olympic National Park, I'm not sure if many people have visited, but I mean, like, this is world class steelheading that's not that far away from like a major city. And like when you get into some of the upper reaches of the upper Ho or the Queets, Quinault, or whatever, I mean, like you're just lost in the forest. I mean, like you are thick in a rainforest, big, huge trees, like elk running around, and I'm seriously some of the biggest steelhead in the world.
It seems like a mythical place, and it seems
It is.
I feel like a lot of steelhead places do feel like that,
Mm-hmm.
where you're entering a different world, like it's like a story, a fairy tale, or something like
Yeah.
that. And I guess steelhead or the unicorn to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
The it, I hear the passion, and it makes me wonder if you are like a lot of other people I know, where yeah, you'll mess with salmon and some other fish, but it's steelhead, steelhead, steelhead. Is it that way for you too?
It's steelhead. Like I mean, the thing that gets me through to steelhead season is our Chinook, right?
Okay.
Chinook aren't easy to catch. They're on sling. They're not an easy fish to catch. You don't just go out there and start busting out some casts and you're gonna sling a salmon because they're out there. It doesn't work that. Maybe with some of the coho, maybe some with some of the kinks or whatever. But like Chinook are a challenge. I mean, you're stepping up. Your rod size, you're stepping up your fly size, your sink tips. I mean, you're swinging like when I was swinging for kings, dude, it's T17 all day,
Hmm.
maybe intermediate lines in T17. I mean, I'm chucking some lasers out there to where these fish sit at, and they don't really sit close to you. They like big, deep, heavy water. And I like the challenge of that. That gets me through to steelhead, right? But I like steelheading because it is so hard, and I like the challenge of going through the conditions. I'm one of the well, maybe I don't know. I'm not weird for the community that we're talking about, but like, dude, I love getting my butt kicked by the weather and sitting here searching for these fish. I love it when the banks are empty and everybody's sitting at home watching football, and I'm the only dude out there getting pelted by sleet. You know, like I want to be as badass as this fish is.
Yeah. So I was trying to. I was thinking about how to ask that question, and I still don't know how to ask that question. But it's not that there's something wrong with a lot of steelheaders, but there's something different. And
Oh yeah.
um, I used to go up to the Golden Gate Angling and Casting ponds in San Francisco, or
Hmm.
club in San Francisco, and there were guys there that it's like if they're not fishing for steelhead, they're preparing for it, and there's
Yeah.
there's no conversation about anything else. Like they're not going fishing, And
No,
so,
it's not. It's a lifestyle mindset. The best way I can talk about it is like I have some buddies that are MMA fighters, right? I don't know what it's like to fight in a cage, but I do know what it's like to fight,
right.
right? And like when I get in my boat or I'm walking out in the river, like dude, I'm in the octagon. Let's go. Let's go. And I want it. I want it for whatever it is. Like I couldn't even tell you how many times like I've had like major snowstorms. We don't get them that often out here, but like everybody else is like they're stocking up and going to the store buying water in case the power goes out. I'm like, dude, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'm
Yeah.
leaving my house. Like I'm out. Like I'm going. Like it's time to go. Right. So whatever I got to do, like extra blankets or this, that, and the other, like bring some extra wood or whatever. Like, I'm going fishing, dude. If the river is dialed, I'm not wasting the day. I'm out to the river. It's time to go. Right. Snowstorm ain't going to stop me. Like I got to have three wheels on my truck to stop me on the side of the road to get in the river. Like
Yeah.
I'm going. Yeah. So I
And
want it gnarly.
and do you fish? Do you ever nymph?
I used to. Not so. Actually, the way that I nymph is like it's searching, right? And I mean like in the beginning, right? I still gear fish too, right? But I use it as like a tool to see like well, what's in the river, like what's going on here, right? So let's say there was like this is in the early season, like mid season. I don't do it. It's like if I've switched to a certain river and I don't have the beat of the river, I want to go see what's up, right? Well, how many fish are around? And I'm not trying to hook every single fish in the river. I'm definitely not doing that. But like you, I mean, nymphing is effective, and so is gear fishing. So just to kind of understand what's going on, if like logs have changed, like is there a snag in here? Rather than me bringing some guys down the river and tell them to throw their whole head and sink tip into a log jam, like go through and just break off a leader, right? Big deal, right? Do it with your buddies, a couple of days before, you know, after like maybe when the water's kind of high, it's a little bit off. Do that, and then when I go to swing, I know what's up, right? So it's a better feeler after these rivers change, right? So that I can always stay on top of what's going on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where? So you mentioned the OP. Where do you where are you going for steelhead? I mean, is there a normal range or a few special places that you've gone?
Oh yeah, so I'm South OP, I will do the hoe, but the hoe's name has got out there a bunch. So I try to stay away from that because it can be very busy. It's a gorgeous river. I like the Queets a lot. I like the Quinault. The hump tulips. There's a I guess after probably the hump tulips, that's when I like if it's not right and things are not going out on the coast like they should as far as like weather conditions because all those are free flowing rivers. If they blow, man, they blow. So luckily I know the Skagit system, so I can go north. We're separating those river systems by at least 5 hours of driving distance. So I mean I can have a completely different weather system 5 or 6 hours away. So I'll do the Skagit, and the Sauk is a tributary of the Skagit also.
So weather depending during steelhead season, you're
Yeah,
you're on the
yeah,
move.
yeah. That's the thing is so I live in Seattle, and I'm midway in between kind of both of them. I guess a little bit closer to the northern rivers than out on the OP. But at times it's nice. I'm like, well, if it's not going that well out on the coast because like the flows are off or maybe it got low, or for any reason that option's always there. But I mean it'd have to be pretty rough for me to switch systems in the middle of the season. But the good option is the first river that I guided when I started guiding. I guided the Skagit, so I know it, and it's just nice to have that as another situation. The other thing, man, if anybody's up on steelheading, man, we got this good old thing called closures that happen every now and then. So if I get my butt kicked off of a certain river because of a closure, then I have another option, and that keeps me floating. So that's a good thing.
What causes the closures?
Um, Escapement goal was not being met. So, and this is the crazy thing about like, steelhead are a hard fish to catch So then let's make it a little bit harder. Let's not have as many as there used to be. Let's just make it even harder, right? That's kind of where we're at right now, where we do not have the numbers that we previously had. But I mean, this isn't just Washington. This is going up and down the coast. From BC, Oregon. There's a lot of stuff going down, and everybody right now is kind of sitting on the edge of their seats trying to figure out how we're going to navigate this. And um, there's a lot of things that I would have said would have liked to get done before I even started steelheading. Because this is something that I say, like, if we were ahead of the curve, that maybe we might not be in this basket at the moment, but right now we're trying to navigate that landscape. I'm not sure which way it's going. I feel better about this than I would have if, let's say, they were like 7-8 years ago. Like, I used to be a gear fisherman, and I could go out and I hook a bunch of fish, and everybody has their time where, like, you have the ability to do it, and you also have the ability for self-control, right? And I didn't know anything was going to happen with any closure wise or whatever, but it uh, it was too easy. Honestly, to tell you the truth, it was just like, I was catching a fish, like we're out there throwing floats or you're nymphing, and it was too easy. And it was like, it kind of felt like it felt like salmon season never ended,
Hmm.
right? I didn't feel the transition to the chase, like the actual legit chase that, swinging a fly through a cold river for a fish that almost doesn't exist, like, I like that. Like, it's just different, right? And I like that mindset change that I go into. Like, when I go out on a gear trip, because I'll still guide some gear anglers for salmon every now and then if I get a request. And it's a different ball game. I'll go from swinging flies and we'll hook, 2 to 3, maybe 4 a day, depending on the run. And I'm like, I could have 25 plus fish days, dropping some eggs or pulling some plugs or something like that. It's just, the effectiveness of it. And I like that when I switch back into fly mode, like, I'm locked into that chase, and it's a lot more of the mindset. I like it. It's less production based of, cast, fish, 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 fish. It is cast, believe that. Cast, believe that it's going to happen, and it's so good once you get that connection. I love that transition into that mindset. Never want to change that.
Yeah, with respect to closures and the state of salmon and steelhead,
Hmm.
I know areas of Northern California were suffering, Oregon
Hmm.
suffering. I know BC. I'm a little less in touch with what's going on in Washington, but what is happening? This is 2021. It's been a rough year for salmonids in the West. What's going on up there?
I'm not sure the exact thing. Like, I mean, there's many guesses. Is like, is it or well, let's start with us first, right? Us, meaning us anglers. Like, we are better fishermen than we used to be,
Hmm.
right? There's a lot of technology out there. There's a lot of people that have uh a lot more access to things on the internet to become better anglers. And I'm not talking about like location spots. I mean, just like, you know um just the access to more information of like what should you do. Like, I just put out an article, a couple of weeks ago that should help out a bunch of people, and I like that, right? Are we putting too much pressure on the fish? uh I'm not sure yet. And the reason I say that is that I want to make good anglers, but everybody's not a good angler. So, like, I mean, when I'm swinging flies, like, I mean, I contact, fish, but swinging in general is a less invasive, option for fishing for steelhead. I don't still hook as many, right? The other thing, we have a lot of stuff that's, I mean, I don't exactly know what's going on with the ocean, but like, I was guiding in Alaska in April, and the ocean was warmer than the river, and the fish wouldn't come into the river. Like, it wouldn't do it. Like, there were none. Like, a river that usually has like 10,000 steelhead in it, it had like 100. Like, it was unreal. It was like, what's going on? And like, the river temperature was like, 31, 32 degrees, and the ocean temperature is 45. They were like, I'm not coming in here.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of situations that happen like that. I mean, like, what's going on when you have the reverse of that? Like, you have really, really warm rivers, right? We have less rain in the, let's say you got river temperatures in the high 60s. I've even heard of some stuff in the 70s. And if there's fish sitting out in cool water, like, why do they want to come into the river? For what? Why? Right? And maybe they're hanging out there. We have, we have, there's netting, there's seals, there's so many things, like, to point your finger at, like, exactly what's going on. I don't. That's any man's guess. I think really what we need to do is we just need to figure out everybody's impact on it, and then make a decision for the greater good of the fish. And that's what I hope we're doing.
Yeah, it's tough. Are you you said something about earlier about having, feeling better about things now than you used to.
Hmm.
I've heard some terrible things about this year, not with
Hmm.
Washington, but
Hmm.
BC.
Yeah.
Um, California seems to have, and I just don't know Oregon that well. I know the Deschutes is in trouble, but
Yeah.
California has horrible decades and then great decades,
Yeah.
and so I feel like there's the ability to rebound there. But what about your sense of the state of Steelhead, the future of Steelhead? In Oregon, Washington, BC, Alaska seems safe, right?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't call any place safe.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
there's safer, and there's, like, in trouble, right? And this is where I've kind of climbed in as far as my mindset about, like, well, what's going on with steelheading, right? And the way that I look at it is like, in any situation, if you have more people involved that care about something, that's never been a bad thing in any situation ever. Like, never, right? That's why people are out here trying to get people to vote and to do, I mean, everything, like, come together. Like, that's just what needs to happen, right?
That's
So
that's true. I
so
mean, sorry to jump in.
no, go ahead.
Like with things, I'm looking at a mountain right now at the window
Hmm.
where people hunt mountain goats, but everyone wants to do it. Everyone's interested in doing it. Almost
Hmm.
no
Hmm.
one can do it, but the fact that
Hmm.
everyone wants to, even though
That's
it's
a
so
good thing.
exclusive. Yeah,
It protects
exactly.
them. It protects the mountain,
Right,
right?
exactly.
Because you got more people. Like I said, like there's 1,000 people that want to hunt a mountain goat. 5 dudes can kill one.
Right.
5. There's 5 dudes out, and it's not a lottery. They're just good at it, and they're kicking everybody else's ass. They're just, other people aren't ready for it. But the
That's
thing
it.
is like, you have 1,000 anglers that care about that mountain, whether they can reap the benefits of what you can get from the mountain, or just the experience. Like I said, people caring about steelhead are going to care about the forest, right? You can't have steelhead without, that, so we need to have this greater good of numbers, which is like, it's a double-edged sword. Like, you bring in more anglers, and really, all right, are we complaining that, like, we're bringing in more anglers? Is like, there's going to be a dude that's going to be in your run, or is it a bad thing because, like, we're not going to have any fish to fish for? So I'll take it as, it's like, yeah, if I got to share my water, at least there's water I can share.
Right.
Like, it's not all done, and there's more people that might want to, might care about a fish. Like, I'm from Kansas. Like, my whole life is dedicated to this fish. So I don't know how many people I've touched through the sport, but, like, if I didn't give a rat's about these fish, like, I don't know how many other people wouldn't, right? So I don't look at that as a bad thing. I think we just need to address that there are more people getting into the sport, and figure out a way um, to do it properly, right? I think there is something that could happen differently. And like I said, like Washington recently, like, they made fishing out of a boat for steelhead after a certain period of time throughout the winter and spring. They made it illegal. You can't fish out a boat, right? For me, I'm a swing guy. I'm like, that's great. That's awesome, right? That was like, holy smokes! Like, you kidding me? Like, this is awesome, right? It just opened up more water. Now, on the other side of things, for the gear guy that loves pulling plugs and doing his thing, he's like, man, you just screwed me. Like, I can't stand it, you know. Um, and so I think it's just because of the seat that I'm sitting in that I'm okay with it. But I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure how much change is going to get, because people adapt. That's how we got to where we got in society in the first place. So, like, you take the dude's boat away from him, they'll figure out something else.
That's
They
true.
They'll figure out something. We're smart enough. We'll figure it out. Like we'll figure out how to catch them. And honestly, to tell you the truth, this is my standpoint. You put people on the bank and you teach them how to fish for steelhead out of a boat. They're gonna be way better than they were before. They're just gonna look because you can read every single thing about what's going on in the water when you're standing in it.
Maybe they'll get
So.
inspired to fish for bass. Um,
Uh,
and when I asked, if Alaska's safe, as soon as I said that, I realized the last steelhead I caught was in the Tongass National Forest, which ought to be the most safe place for steelhead.
yeah, that's where I was at. That's it.
Yeah,
That's the place. Yeah, it's awesome.
but I mean, we've heard in the news for the last, many years of threats to the Tongass, and so,
Mm-hmm.
it's. I guess nothing is safe. Some things are safer. So
Mm-hmm.
you were in the Tongass.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Love it. It's a awesome place. And this is the thing is, like any place where you have difficult accessibility to get to a fishery, it's just going to be better. The OP is pretty accessible. You know, like if you want to go ahead and do it, like there's a place like where I got at up in Alaska, like you can only get there by boat or plane. Like you're not driving, right? And that could be the river's only saving grace. Is like you can't have like I can't pack up my truck and drive to Tuskegee like I can from Seattle.
Right.
I can't do it. Right? It's a lot more navigation. Like there's not where you're going to stay at. Like places are booked out. I mean, you're talking about small towns. How are you gonna where are you gonna get there? This is wild country. So you just gotta the places that are accessible, like the Olympic Peninsula, it's a pretty accessible place. Like if you want to get out there and figure out, I mean, you can do it. Um, I think we just need to have a little bit more, you know, control. And I don't mean like just us, like the sportsmen. Like I don't want the sportsmen kicking each other's butt, trying to argue about, well, how do I want to catch the fish versus how you want to catch the fish. It's like, dude, we always want to catch fish. Like who cares how you're doing it, right? Um, we just need to figure out some way that all of us sportsmen are having a voice that's together and trying to raise the number of sportsmen that are going to be able to try to support these fish at the end of the day. And I don't mean fighting another interest group either. I don't mean that. I mean just like let's just think about the fish and what we can do better for the fish so that we still have opportunities to fish for them.
Yeah. The Tongass is where you guide in Alaska?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What drove you up there?
I had a buddy who had a booth next to a gentleman that owns a lodge up there, and he had an invite, and then my buddy asked me to go up there with him, and he's like, "Hey man, you want to go to Alaska and fish for steelhead?" And I'd been there a couple of times, not to this place, and I was like, "Yeah man, it's the end of the season. We were done steelheading on the OP," and I was like, "Yeah man, I got time to go up there." And we went up there, and I was like, "Oh my, what is this place? This is unreal." I mean, there's steelhead swimming around there like you'd see coho. I mean, it's nuts, right? And I couldn't believe what I saw. And they, I think maybe it was maybe 2 years later, they needed a guide, and this is after my season on the OP, so it kind of extends my season all the way through like the middle of May because I'm usually done at the end of March. And I went up there and saw what it was, and I just had a blast up there guiding. And now I host trips up there, and then I'll hang around for an extra week or 2 weeks just to guide for the lodge because it's just fun. There's a lot of people up there that are having a great time, so I just want to keep extending that steelhead season.
What's your standard steelhead season as a guide in Washington?
So standard season, like I really get kicking off with wild steelhead because that's what I'm chasing. Like I'm not really after hatchet fish. I start on like January 10th, right? That's usually when I'm like, yeah, the river should have time to let these fish move in, and then we things start getting better toward the end of January. We have a really good run in February, but then we also have a good amount of rain that comes also that maybe can push you on and off the river. But my month is March. I love March. March Madness is not basketball. It's all about steelhead. It's all about steelhead. So March is great, and I fish all the way. I try to fish. I mean, seriously, every single day that I can in March. I'm usually booked every single day in March, but if I slip in a day off, I'm on the water.
Yeah.
and then I might have a couple of days, because the OP usually closes most of the rivers. They close on March 31st, and then that's again that I can come back up to the Skagit system and maybe fish that for 3-4 days, and then it's time to pack up and go to Alaska. And I'm in Alaska from the beginning of April, like maybe like April 8th or 10th to like May 10th or 12th or something like that.
What for people who are thinking about booking a trip? You're are all the meetup locations in Seattle? How
Yeah,
does
yeah.
how do things work on a standard guided
So
trip?
usually what I do is everybody flies into Seattle. I get people from all over the world, and they come into Seattle, and then if you're coming out the Olympic Peninsula, just prepare yourself for a 3 hour drive. It's pretty chill though. It's obviously it's pretty. So you fly into Seattle, you'll get a rental car, and then I have different lodging options for people to come out to the coast. But I have some deals worked out with some of the hotels out on the coast, and then I'll tell you where we're gonna fish at, depending on water levels, because like I said, I'm trying to switch around so I can stay on them. And then we meet in the morning. It's daylight to dark. I want to chase them. I want to get them.
Yeah.
Like I don't work on hours. Like Steelhead don't work 9 to 5, so that's not the way it works. So I want to, the season. It's how you look at it. Like some people look at it, Steelhead season is really really long. I look at it as it's really short. Like you wait all year for it. It's finally here. Like try to soak up as much of it as you can. So do that.
Years and years ago, I was living in fishing and guiding a lot in Colorado. Not guiding a lot, unfortunately, but fishing a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And I really wanted to get into steelhead. I can't remember why. I think I got really called by the spirit of it.
Mm-hmm.
And bought a couple of books, read the books, watched videos, looked at the gear, and the impression that I remember getting was this is impossible. Um, like,
Yeah.
it was there were too many deterring factors, too many new terms, too many gear aspects, a new way of casting, etc.
Uh-huh.
For
Uh-huh.
something that was regarded as, impossible anyway.
Right.
And I went solo to BC once, and that was a disaster upon a disaster. Um, what I now that I can swing and fish for steelhead, it's not as
Intimidating.
no, it's not. And there was a process that needed to happen there. What advice would you give to anglers who are interested or thinking about it, that might get them to the coast?
Right. I'd say this because when you start steelheading, we're talking about swinging. That's just we're tossing everything out of the window. We're talking swinging, right? That's what I like to do. That's what we're going to talk about. So when you're talking about swinging, like and honestly any fishing in a river, like you need to understand how to read water, right? And really, the way that you want to look at like a river is you want to just really pick out different sections of water where the water speed changes, right? That's where these fish move through. So steelhead, if anybody played Frogger, like steelhead are playing Frogger.
Hmm.
That's what they're doing. They're navigating around this car, navigating around this car, but what they're doing is they're navigating their way through fast and slow water, right? They'll sit in some ripping fast water if it means they're gonna be safe, right? That's what they're gonna be. So locate that first. The other thing you need to understand, honestly, I'd say this even before you really get your casting dialed, is you need to understand your sink tip game. Like that is crucial, right? You need to know the difference of like why you'd use T14 here, why you would use T11, T17. Like you need to know why. You need to know, how it's actually going to fish. Because the truth is, if you don't know that, T17 is going to snag the bottom in like 3 feet of water that's not moving that fast. I don't care how good your snap T is. It doesn't matter. Like you're just fishing the wrong stuff. You can snag the bottom, right? And then you could be in the casting championships. It's like you're fishing that in the wrong type of water, dude. You're going to be on bottom. You're not going to be on fish. So really understand the sink tip games and really have a good understanding of one head, one, not I'm not telling you not to go out there and stock up, because I mean it feels good. And I like steelheading. Like it's a lifestyle. I love the steelheading lifestyle, right? And you know, go out there being prepared, but like honestly, have one head, and then have a range of tips that you can use in different speeds of water, and try to understand where to use them. So as you're mentioning, like I you know, I wrote an article in the Steelheaders Journal that kind of lists out some of that stuff, and it's just kind of pinpointing where you should use some of these tips at, and where you should not use them, right? That'll help you a lot. Then after that, then you really just want to be able to deliver a clean cast off of both shoulders, because you can go to a river and it might be awesome for you. You might even be catching fish. It might be great if you can cast off of your right shoulder. But as soon as that river blows out and you got to go to another river that flows a different direction to the ocean, and you got to cast off your left shoulder, you're in trouble. You just can't catch them because you can't deliver the cast properly, right? You don't know how to mend. There's a lot of different things. So just, you know, as a guide to where you're trying to go, is you want to understand your sink tip game after you figured out the water, and you want to be able to cast off of both shoulders, right? It doesn't mean necessarily that you need to be casting top hand left. If you can, it's way better. I do it when I can. And you just need to be able to have those options so that you can, you know, chase these fish wherever they're at, right? That'll just make you the better angler. Like I said, you want to be one of the 5 guys chasing mountain goats on that mountain that's getting a goat.
Right.
Out of 1,000, you want to be that guy. So dedication is definitely going to trump, you know, the guy that's got a bag full of, you know, everything in the, you know, in the cookie jar, right? If you understand your one head and your sink tips, like the next guy that bought everything out of the fly shop, I mean, you're going to catch fish. He's going to keep going back to the store to try to buy more flies to catch more fish, and it still ain't going to help him.
When someone is planning on coming up and fishing with you, what advice do you give? Do you point them towards resources? Do you have them practice anything?
No. So really what I do is just like everybody that books me, I want to have a conversation with, right? So, as much as people are, you know, checking out guides in the area, and, you know, like people, you know, look at my Instagram, whatever, like you're screening me. And I also at the same time, like I want to screen you and make sure that you're in the right mindset to come out here and to get this done. And I don't want to give you any promises about something, that, you know, you're not going to get. So I just honestly, like me talking to every single person before they book, like I can get you to your expectations. Like I mean, I feel good. I feel good that I'm in the place that I'm in, but like nobody really leaves unhappy when they come fishing with me. This is whether you tag one or not, like I'm at least, you're on the path to get one, and I will get you dialed. I will do that. So
I imagine, especially, I don't know. I don't know if Washington's the same as Oregon and California, but you get into those coastal steelhead areas and like it's an interesting place culturally. You know, like I mentioned Bigfoot earlier.
yeah,
People believe in the places that I've been steelheading. They're believers.
yeah.
Um, I imagine you've had some interesting experiences and stories. You know, how would you describe, I guess, first steelhead country? And then, you know, is there a moment you've had on the water that really captures the whole thing for you?
Yeah, you know, honestly, like my moment was the day that I did catch that fish on the first cast,
Mm.
right? And really what it was is that, you know, for all the people that come visit me, you know, I honestly, like, I want them to believe, you know, that every single cast that they're putting in the water, you can hook the fish of your lifetime. So this is why I'm like, dude, make sure that you're not blowing your anchor. Make sure you don't have any knots in your leader. Make sure you're using a big hook. Like I don't fish with small hooks. I mean, like we're fishing 1-aught and 2-aught hooks. I mean, I want a big hook, right? So that day was pretty much of all the little stories that I've been telling people about believing, and this can happen and that can happen. Like when I'm telling someone else a story, I'm telling it to myself also, right? I believe that this opportunity is there for me, and um, I just was, I was blessed by the Steelhead gods to actually, prove that story, by landing that fish. Like I said, it's the biggest steelhead I've ever seen, right? And I wanted to believe that the areas that I was fishing had fish of this caliber. I honestly, like, I thought I was going to hook that fish on mosquito. I did. I know they're up there. I mean, I thought it was going to be on the Babine or the Kispiox or some, some super famous river, that everybody and their grandma knows about. And then for me to catch that in my backyard on my river, like the one that I like to be at all the time, like just changed everything about me. And it just uh, made me believe in my river system even more. And I hope it did with other people also. You know, that's the moment that stuck out for me. That just kind of, you know, made all the nonsense, become legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, what's that? What is it about this Pacific Northwest steelhead world? Like, how I described it earlier as like mythic or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's it like for you, especially for someone who spends so much time up there?
Just like being being able to like be in the forest is, after, like I said, I live in Seattle, like being able to get into there, like I really feel like I'm going on like like another journey every time, and I'm able to let go um of whatever's going on in life and just kind of connect myself with the river. Now, swinging is, I think, is super important to let that go out. So the one thing that I preach to people is like, when you're out there swinging for steelhead, you're supposed to be able to relax and fish at the same time. Because if your mind's on a whole bunch of other stuff and you just can't let it go, it'll be difficult for you, and you won't be ready for your moment when it comes. And just driving into those big trees, it's a relaxing situation that allows you to chill. I'm still on the hunt, like I'm not losing that, but it just allows me to focus on that one thing, which is that chase. And dude, there's nothing like being around like big monster trees, right? And then you connect that with these steelhead green rivers, and just the chance, man. Like I tell people all the time, this is my, I guess my little motto is, one cast can change your life. It literally can, right? You put that cast out there the right way. I mean, I've had somebody almost get ripped off the bank by a steelhead. Like, dude, that changes you. Like, you're not the same. You don't believe that there's stuff in the water that can do that, and there are. So, just that situation of walking into that world. Like I said, you're walking into you're walking into the octagon. Some people walk into the octagon and they're calm. That's okay for them, and they see everything going on in slow motion. And that's the way it is for me when I'm out on the OP. Like I love that situation. I'm just disconnected from the busyness of life, and I like spreading that around and letting other people check out. Like it's pretty cool being a guide, man, to see somebody else literally just kind of head in the clouds, just like looking at stuff, and you can just see them just melting away into the forest. It's awesome.
That's cool. If someone's heading to the Olympic Peninsula, what, and they're bringing gear, what gear do you recommend?
So if we're talking about rods, like I like 9 weights. Like an 8 weight is probably your basic recommendation. But the reason I like 9 weights is I guess it's got a lot of power. Right? They got a lot of power, and I'm not necessarily talking about for the fight of the fish. I mean, just for the for picking up these flies a little bit easier than some of the other rods. Like I'd say this, I don't bring out a 7 weight. If you bring out a 7 weight, I'm probably gonna tell you just to leave it. I have all the rods you're gonna need anyway. But like what I'm stocked up with is 9 weights. They pick up big flies. They pick up heavy tips. That'll let you fish different types of water. So do that. You're gonna need a definitely a good sized reel, just so that you can um, pick up the line quick enough once you get hooked up. That's really what it's about. And then this is the land of the rainforest. Like you need some protection. So get some Gore-Tex. Like make sure you got a really good jacket, and like don't don't be the tough guy that's like, oh, I've had holes in my waders for like 2 or 3 years and I've been fine. I'm like, okay, sure, right? Just make sure you're dialed before before you come out here, so you can actually really enjoy the whole experience, and get everything out of it. Like 2 or 3 days goes by really fast.
Yeah, man, and those days where especially with mindset being such an important part of steelheading.
Hmm.
You know, no one wants to be wet, cold. You know, that can get into your head pretty quickly too.
Yeah, 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 man. I'm like, I love. There's some days that you're out there, and it is. I mean, the guys that fish on the LP knows we call them double raincoat days because we literally have two raincoats on,
Oh wow.
right? Because your first one is just literally just going to be soaked, and you probably got your first, your lighter jacket tucked inside your waders. So if you even got to drop your jacket, relieve yourself for a second, you're just getting pelted with the rain if it's like that, or the wet snow or something, you know. And every day on the OP isn't like that. And I mean, your lottery days and is that it's nice and sunny. Some people actually think this, and this is I'm actually starting to kind of get away from this thinking. I've had some really banger days in like really nice weather, like 55 degrees, full sun, and I've just smoked them.
Hmm.
Maybe it's because I fish glacial water and the fish feel a lot safer. Um, that might have something to do with it. But if I look through my pictures of all the success and stuff that I've had, it's some pretty nice situations out there. It's not terrible, but it doesn't mean that like 20 minutes before that picture happened, it wasn't absolutely just dreadful. So just be prepared. And honestly, like I have a waiter rental service either anyway. So I mean, if you don't come with it, I'm not going to let you freeze. I
Right.
got something for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have any other recommendations, especially with respect to flies?
Just have a couple flies. Like I have something to help people out. Is like I tied I have a black, blue, and pink fly called the night crawler, and there's a YouTube video out. You should just look up night crawler, you figure it out, and that'll help you, you know, get some flies. Because I mean, I'm definitely going to provide everything that you need when you get here. But if you want to kind of get into some tying before you get out here, the truth is, it's like if you're fishing with a fly that you really, really believe in, you spend some time on it. You hopefully, if you have more than one, you'll fish it hard, right? If you only tied one and it's like your $50 intruder, you're probably not going to fish it that hard because you don't want to snag it up on something. So, take some time to tie some stuff and just go through your gear and make sure that everything's dialed. You don't want to be scrambling around through things, and that's another reason why I have everything you need when you get out here, but just try to be as organized as you can just to make your time a lot more smooth when you're out here. But have a selection of flies, and when I'm talking about selection of flies, I don't mean like 12 different colors. I mean like at the most like have 6 patterns. And this is the truth with steelhead. Most of the time, if it's presented properly and you get it in front of their face, they're gonna eat it. That's just they're curious. They're really really curious. They're like cats. They just want to like, what is that? And they want to swipe at it. What I'm looking for, this is why I fish bigger flies that are usually in the darker colors. I want to make them mad. I want to make them really mad. I want to fight a fish angry. Like I'd always rather have the reaction from a steelhead of like, I hate you, get away from me, rather than I wonder what this is. I want you to come at it and like hate it. So that's why I fish the colors that I do, and I fish the size that I do, because I just want that violent reaction. Like I said, I'm getting in the cage, like let's go, let's box. So um, you know, that's what I'd say.
I love it. Where can folks go to learn more about your guide service and follow you and what you're up to?
So you can go to the internet and get on flyguide.com, and flyguide is spelled FLY. G is in George, Y is in year, D is in dog, E is in Edward.com. Spelled the same way, Fly Guide. You can find me on Instagram if you can see what's going on with me, currently, or you can give me a shout anytime. I like talking to people. You can give me a ring at 206-673-7100. And I'd like to just, talk to you, pick your brain and see what you're looking for and see if I can get you on the river into some fish. It'd be awesome.
Excellent. Well, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, buddy.